I'm Scott Fishman.
I'm Jon Dwoskin.
And this is the 7-Minute Salesman.
Welcome, everybody.
Hey, John, what's going on?
Fish, good morning. How are you?
Doing great, man. Happy holidays to you, my friend.
Yeah, happy holidays to you and the whole 7-Minute community. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Way to one-up me. Yes. 7-Minute Salesman community, 30-minute sales coach community,
no excuses.
Think Big Experience, Jon Dwoskin Experience community. Happy holidays to everybody.
Stop lying to yourself.
I hope it was safe. I hope you had a great time.
Take this information.
Yeah, let's kick it off, John.
Kick
it off, man.
Kick it off. Grow your business.
All right,
grow
cool.
your
So
sales. Make more money.
We were talking a little bit offline, and this is
have a better
something
life,
that I was thinking about is
the end.
what as I'm kind of putting together, some putting pen to paper, finger to keyboard for my 2021 goals here. Just thinking about reflecting back on some gifts that we received from this nasty virus this last year. That just looking at things from a different lens, it's definitely given us a few things that, aside from a cough and a fever, and it's given us a few things that we can use this year. We can use to gain momentum rolling into 2021.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Fish. And I think it's a great lens to look at things through, the gifts that it did give us, because it caused everybody to really dig deep and look inward and raise levels of awareness and figure things out, and that you can't read in a book and figure out in real time if the world were normal. So, with new levels of consciousness, new things happen. And, we've talked that, COVID kind of accelerated everything, probably 5 years, but also gave us, a gift of time, right? Less travel, less commuting.
Mm-hmm. Less. And with that gift of time and less travel, less commuting, there's also a gift of financial too, because you're not paying for gas.
Yeah.
You're not paying for your airfare. You're probably not entertaining as much as far as like maybe taking people to dinner if you were in that realm. So there's a lot of not only time and money being saved, but just a pivot to a little bit of a different business model this past year that we've done.
Yeah.
And I think it's huge. And as far as the timepiece, you and I were talking a little bit as well offline. I said that twice now. We do talk offline.
Well, we did more talking offline today than we normally do.
Yeah, it's true. But this is something where I commute a half-hour minimum every day. I have to get up early to take a shower, take care of my dogs, make sure they're fed, make sure they go to the bathroom, make sure I have everything set at my house normally before I would leave the house and drive to the office. So literally that's almost 3 hours right there that I'm giving myself back.
Yeah.
And it's, what have I done with it?
Yeah.
I think there has been times where I haven't done shit. I'm just going to be honest. Like, there have been times where I've looked back and said, I had 3 extra hours today. What did I do with it? And I watched YouTube videos, and they might not even be business oriented. They might have been about nothing.
Yeah.
Or what did I journal? Did I work on my business plan? Did I make extra phone calls? Did I try to come up with different ideas for my business, which does happen quite a bit. But I think it's something where as we roll into this new year and we're planning, that we are very conscious of. I think we should be, so that we make sure we're taking advantage of this time.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, Fish, because I did the same thing this year. And, when COVID hit, what I realized was I was driving, give or take 2 hours a day, 10, 12 hours a week. And when we were all kind of on lockdown, I looked at that and said, okay, maybe not for the full 10, 12 hours, because I agree, you got to have some downtime too. I mean, you can't be, 100% all the time. But that's why I started a live podcast, and started doing a bunch of free trainings, and that occupied about 6.5 hours of that 10 hours that I was driving. And so it was kind of a wash. So sometimes people will say, like, how do you do that? I say, well, I'm just driving less, and I just, layered in the times where I was, was driving. But I think you bring up a really good point where you got to be really extra conscious moving into 2021, because most companies aren't going back to work till June, July, August, maybe even September. And they are going to have that extra time. And what are you going to do with it? And just to expand on what you were talking about, pick the one or two things that you can kind of dive in immediately, maybe for January or Q1, where you can say, okay, I've got this extra time, and these are the leading activities that will grow my business in a positive way. And this is what I'm going to do with it. And then to expand on that even more when it comes to time block that and put it on repeat in some fashion in your calendar so you can commit to it.
Yes. And be honest with yourself. I would really take this time this week between Christmas and New Year's, when it's maybe you have a little extra downtime. I know we've talked about for the last 3 weeks, don't take any downtime. It's not coming. It's, you know what, there's probably going to be some downtime this week. Think about it.
Yeah.
Take some inventory on your schedule of what you've been doing and be brutally honest. Because when we were going into the office before this pandemic hit, we had, our day was bookended in some way, shape, or form. Jon, you like to, you're in several different offices throughout the day. You're visiting people. Mm-hmm. I know we've always joked that if there's a Starbucks, you have an office. And it's, when you think about it that way, like you have, your schedule's a little bit different, but for me, it's bookended by going to work and leaving work.
Yeah.
And we don't have that now. So be honest with yourself. Maybe it's not an 8-hour day that gets you through right now. Maybe it's, 3 hours on, an hour off, 3 hours on, something. But take advantage of that time. But be honest. Am I getting the most out of my day? Because it's not. We are in uncharted waters, and we've been muddling through since March.
Yeah.
With this, and this whole working remote piece has thrown a lot of people for a loop. Really take the time and think about, am I making the most of my time?
Yeah. And I love what you're talking about. We're both fans of Tim Ferriss and the 4-hour work week. I don't know if it can be done in 4 hours, but knowing your productive times and your prime productive times, I think, are so key. I think what's also really important about this, Fish, and what you're mentioning is, understanding your calendar and really being a student of your calendar. And on a weekly basis, really, even on Fridays, look back and study your calendar. Really, like, make that part of your week. Look at the white space and look at, how much time things took. And like you said, be very upfront and honest with yourself, and look at something and say, hey, this took an hour. It probably could have taken 20 minutes. Hey, these 3 meetings weren't productive because I didn't have an agenda. I mean, really look at how effective you can be with all elements of time. And we have extra time. That doesn't mean we need to fill it with empty nothings at a meeting, because nothing's more frustrating. I hear this all the time, that, people go to just empty meetings. And so because we have more time, don't think you need to have a 1 hour Zoom or Teams when you can do it in 15 minutes.
Right. It's so funny you mentioned that. I was notorious at one point in my career. I was notorious for just standing up in the middle of a meeting because we had meetings that would just drone on. This, I think it was a weekly meeting, and it was like an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it, like you said, it could have been done probably in 45 minutes. And I would, at one point, they say, what's your 2:30 feel like, that 5-hour energy thing?
Yeah.
And that's when this meeting would be. And I would literally, the reason I initially started standing up was because I was almost falling asleep, and I did not.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, you want to be that guy that falls asleep at work? I'm sorry,
it better not
I'm
be.
not doing it.
Yeah.
But at that point, the VP that I rolled up to at that time was like, why do you always stand up? I'm like, that's your cue. When I stand up, if I love you, man, and I love working with you. I love listening to you. I'm bought into your vision. I'll run through a wall for you. But when I stand up in the middle of a meeting, I'm done.
Yeah.
And if I'm done, the people who don't give a shit are for sure done.
Yeah.
So wrap it up. And that literally started happening. And he took it, and we shortened the meeting. We rolled with it. But I'm very conscious of that, because I have these huddles now, and I set aside 30 minutes, and a lot of times it's 15 minutes of straight business, and then just 15 minutes of, we call it a giggle block, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's necessary. And sometimes I could see people like starting to be like zoning out. So I'll just end it.
That when I was in commercial real estate and ran my office, I had a meeting every Monday morning at 8 a.m. And when I took over, those meetings had always been an hour. But one of the things I always noticed that at 40 minutes, everybody at 41 minutes, everybody checked out. Mm-hmm. And so I started making them 40-minute meetings and did my best to make them 30 minutes, like you were talking about. And I just want to highlight this. There is no greater gift than having a tight meeting, but the greatest gift is when you have a tight meeting and you end early. People love it. It's like giving them a gift of extra time in their day to get ahead of their day.
I love that. It makes sense. And it's, and you mentioned it, like with everything being virtual and being on Zoom meetings, I can't tell you how many times a week I hear someone say, well, it looks like we're giving you 6 minutes of your day back. And I love that. Like, if the meeting's over, let it be over.
Let it be over.
You're
Absolutely.
Get that one dipshit. And Andre, I'm sorry for calling you a dipshit if you listen to this podcast, but there's a guy named Andre that worked with me for years. And every time we had a meeting with someone that was senior to us, it ended with a question. And it was some asinine question that was probably answered 3 times during the meeting, but he had to hear himself ask a question in every meeting.
Those are the worst.
Yeah, sorry,
Those
Andre.
are the worst. I know. There was a guy that used to do that at one of the business companies I was at. All right. So I love this whole topic of time. I love this whole topic of, we have this extra time. What are we doing for it? What are we doing with it? Being more conscious of talking about the things that we can do to grow our business during those times. What else, Fish?
Well, as an added bonus, and this really pertains quite a bit to your business, so I think you can probably speak to it a little bit more than me.
Yeah.
But there's a saying, not a saying, but there's this phenomenon where someone loses like their sight, right? Their hearing gets way stronger.
Yeah.
Or if they lose their hearing, maybe their sense of smell, like your senses take over, right?
Yeah.
And with our business, there are certain components of our business that this year we weren't able to really take advantage of and grow. Mm-hmm. But a lot of us pivoted and we were able to actually build different muscles in our business.
Yeah.
And what I would say is, as you're planning for this year, plan on some of the other sectors opening back up, but don't let these other pieces that got us through this year, think about that percentage of growth you're going to have if you keep them and keep those muscles built and you don't let them atrophy.
Yeah. 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 It's so important. I mean, I think you got to pivot your business. And we also talked about, ending the year where you thought you were going to end the year and growing your business from that point, just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying is, you have all these different lanes you're looking at, I think, in your business this year, right? Your business, kind of how you ended this year and how you needed to pivot. Your business, how you thought you were going to end, and use that as your base to how you're going to grow. Because I think many businesses are going to see a lot of growth in 2021. And then you have this extra time where if you don't structure it the right way, you can kind of get lost. And you may not have a manager around you to help structure yourself as much as you need it. Mm-hmm. And so if you zoom out and just as an observer, you really have to create a very specific and tight framework for yourself. I just feel like we need to kind of mention that as well. So all of these different lanes of your business, I shouldn't say lanes, but all of these different avenues and pillars of your business get the amount of time that each need. So you need time to say, okay, here's what worked this year, and this is what I grew this year. Here's what my goal was, what I thought my goal was going to be, and this is how I'm going to grow it this year, and this is the time I'm going to allocate to spend there. And all of these things need their own leading activities, and all of these things need their own goals and components to them. And you got to do a little bit every day to move each piece forward.
Yes. And this is why as we're talking about this in the lanes, and I love how you said lanes. I like that. I think about your business. And this is why when we talked a year ago,
Yeah.
you were going to be doing a lot more keynote speaking, right?
Yeah.
That was going to be a large portion of your business.
Correct. Yeah.
Fast forward 60 days into the year, it no longer could be, right? So
It no longer could be. No.
your business didn't falter this year because of that. You actually grew different sectors and
Correct.
worked in different lanes. You filled different buckets.
So, yeah. I was just going to say, I was actually giving a keynote on in the first week of March in Nashville, and everyone was talking about this virus in China that was that was coming, and that was kind of the last keynote I gave. But you're right. One of the things I did was I created a group coaching model, which I had never done before, because I had all of these people who were telling me they couldn't afford my one-on-one coaching. And so I created this group coaching model that I wanted to make sure was affordable by all. Fish, this, my dad was a dentist, but my dad never turned a patient away. Never. No matter if they had no money, my dad would put them on a $5 a month for 20 years to pay the bill back. Never turned anybody away. And so it really bothers me when people tell me, I can't afford you, you're too expensive, and I don't have a place to put them. And so I created this affordable by all program. And because of COVID, and many people have been hit by it, everybody can afford the program. Everybody can afford it. Whether they want to invest in themselves is up to them, but it was completely created and pivoted from COVID.
You took away that objection too. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm talking sales here, Jon. The 7-minute sales minute. But this is when you think about this, you built that lane up.
Yeah.
You've built up some other sections of your business. Now, when keynotes do open back up, what's going to happen? You're going to be on fire.
Correct.
Right. So that's what I mean by that. Like just pivoting. We talked about that restaurant, fine dining in the bottom of a condo complex the other day.
Yeah.
And we talked about how if I was running that restaurant, I would have pivoted in March or April when I saw that this wasn't ending anytime soon to not fine dining, but more of like a step above fast food.
Right.
And now fast forward literally 10 months into this thing, and that restaurant is doing exactly that.
Yeah.
And what I would be planning as them is get people hooked on that $10 meal, get people hooked on that $15, $20 meal. So that way, when everything comes back and we have the fine dining is there, the experience is there, they still can run it out of a separate storefront.
Amen.
The same thing, whatever it is, the light version of the restaurant, the business can be upscaled by 25%, 30%.
Yeah.
You're at 2 restaurants now.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with us. Like your business has been flowing. When you can do keynotes, it's just, you're going to be at 200%. It's crazy. Or 500%, 1,000%. I don't know.
Right. Well, in that, but I've been growing my keynote brand by doing live podcasts. So people can actually see me live, but it's not on a stage. It's just interviewing people one-on-one, and people hear this. This is always a crowd favorite, the 7-minute sales minute. I'm always at meetings where people say, oh, a Fish said, then 7-minute salesman, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't matter if it's live, recorded, or whatever it is. Staying in front of people, I think is critical. Staying in front of your clients in every avenue possible, all social media, just to kind of, expand on what we're talking about as far as this extra time. Use social media to your advantage, use it to generate business, and just be smart about, I'm just going to go back to what you said right from the beginning. You have all of this extra time, use it in the most productive way. And find your rhythm. Yeah.
You better believe I'm going to be changing up my schedule. You and I talked, there's a lot of times in my day that I've given myself excuses, and I could be doing more always. So I think as we're wrapping this up, I want to touch on just setting your goals for the year a little bit.
Yeah.
And so there's people in all different that fit into all different, archetypes here. People whose business did better because of COVID, people whose business took a step back, people whose business just completely died down for the year.
Yeah.
So as you're planning for 2021, I'm going to challenge you. If your business did better, assume it's going to get better again. add 10%. Like when you set your goals, don't give yourself an easy out. I'm not a big fan of big, hairy, audacious goals and moonshots, because I think that a lot of times it's just overreaching, and that can actually kill your psyche before you even start. But assume that it's going to grow. If your business took a step back in 2020 because of everything going on, look back at what you set your 2020 goal at. So go back a year in your notes and look and see where you set it, and just act as if you hit that goal.
Yeah.
Give yourself an increase for your 2021 goal, because we have to get back to this. We can't let this weaken us. We can't let this, give us an excuse to take a step back. We have to continue to grow. Don't atrophy. It's the second time I use that word.
It's a good word.
We're going to have to put it in the title somehow.
I agree with everything you just said. And the only thing I'll add is whatever your goal is, double it.
Double it.
That's it.
All right.
Double your social, double your goal, double your calls. Everybody, I've never met somebody that doesn't have more in them, including myself. And push yourself. And here's to a great 2021. And Fish, here's to a great 2021 for you, for this podcast, for everybody in the 7-minute community. And I just want to thank you for what's been an amazing, 5+ years now of this podcast.
Yes, it's nuts.
And next year is going to be, it's going to be great. So thank you. And I want to thank everybody for listening and your time and your feedback and everything. It's been amazing. Fish, I'll let you close it up.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, John. I look forward to putting 2020 in the rear view. Again, don't burn it. It's not an F 2020 thing. It's, what 2020 can go. It's something that happened. It's history, and learn from it, grow from it, accept the gifts that it gave us, because it did, and look at it through that lens. We did get some gifts from it, and move forward and prosper.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Now, no excuses. It's time to put everything you listen to into action. Stop bullshitting yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Stop listening and doing nothing with this information. Take this information, implement it into your day, kick some ass, grow your business, grow your sales, make more money, have more fun, have a better life, period, the end.
What he said.